In regards to Code Unlimited, do you think he's close to Jigen or Ishiki Otsutsuki in regards to power?
It's a good question. So I guess it kind of boils down to what we understand about the karma, right? So,
True.
I mean, black karma obviously eventually it otsutsufies you, and whether or not you like it one day, you're pretty much 100% Otsutsuki, and then you get taken over. With a white karma, have we really established whether or not he's being otsutsufied?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
So
white karma.
they said.
exactly.
Yeah, so
So the fact that he's being Otsutsufied and the fact that he's had that white karma for so long, I feel like he's gonna scale to Ishiki levels rather than Jigen levels. But the only problem is he doesn't have the dojutsu that like Ishiki so heavily relied on.
Wait, hold on. So
Mhm.
the white karma does not Asusify you though.
supposedly he gets the power from Ishiki Otsutsuki. I don't necessarily think it's going to be 100%, but with that boost plus the plus him being unlimited, I'm pretty sure that he himself got stronger over the years. I got into a debate and I kind of somebody kind of brought that to my attention. I think it's possible, but I'd still scale him close to Jigen, just my personal opinion. But no one really knows at this particular point, to be honest.
Well, the way that I look at it is it's a bit like fighting a tailed beast, right? So if you just meet Isobu out in the wild, he'll probably like I think if you meet Isobu out in the wild, Isobu would be an easier fight than if you were fighting a perfect Jinchuriki of Isobu because there's added. You know, like now I can use all of the chakra of this tailed beast, and there's the fact that I was trained and I have my own abilities and all of these things. So when you combined a move set to an already existing move set, you get a stronger overall person, and that's why I think and also just with the way that Shonen goes, you have to power up. And I understand that Naruto obviously is Baryon mode, and now we're talking about Boruto and Kawaki having to deal with this, not Naruto and Sasuke. But I don't think he'll be Ishiki level, but I do think he'll be stronger than Jigen. Because remember, Jigen was just a monk. Like Jigen was nothing. You know, like Jigen was a guy who got a brain worm.
But Jigen was being controlled by Ishiki Otsutsuki. Remember when Momoshiki takes over Boruto, he's significantly stronger than when Boruto just is using Momoshiki's power. So I think that right there probably offsets it.
And it seems like all the characters in the show just use Jigen as this power cliff. Like they don't really use Ishiki. They don't say like this character is stronger than Ishiki. They always say like he has androids or whatever you want to call him stronger than Jigen. It's always Jigen. It's never Ishiki. You never hear them mention Ishiki like that.
Well, even Naruto didn't say Ishiki's name. He just called him Otsuki. He was just like he was like, "Come fight me, Otsutsuki," and I was like, "That's mad disrespectful." I like that. I like that energy. He was, "I'm not even gonna say your first name." He knew his first name too, and he was like, he just like
I
basically
didn't
like
notice that.
called him by his typing. It's like, "Step up." That was huge.
With that,
man.
there's a narrative reason, of course, though, right? Because like Ishiki, he got folded pretty early on in the history of the verse, right? Predating Hagoromo, and then from there on, any interaction that anyone would ever have with him would be through Jigen, so they wouldn't scale Ishiki. He was never before seen. Now, when it comes to Unlimited Code, some people say you can't power scale this character because you don't have any feats for him.
Right.
But for me, that doesn't really hold water, right? The past informs who you are in the present and who you will be in the future. So all we need to do is look at the past and how he operates. So what do we know about the character? Well, we know primarily when it comes to power, he focuses in on the Karma Seal, right? So I think at the end or towards the end of Boruto chapter 63, he alludes to him not the reason why he's so powerful is not just because he has the power of the Otsutsuki, but also the knowledge, right? A millennia's worth of combat experience. So then we know definitively Code has access to the power of Ishiki Otsutsuki. We can throw in knowledge as well, but just to simplify it, just say power. Then from there, the question would then be, okay, well, why doesn't he have all the power, right? Because we do know if he did, he wouldn't be weaker than Jigen, which is why the limiters were placed there to begin with. So then the most logical conclusion from there would be, okay, well, the limiters limit the access that he has from the Karma Seal power-wise, right? So with the limiters off, you can make a logical induction and say that he's going to have 100% access to Ishiki's powers, but because a dojutsu is a Kekkei Genkai that affects you on the genetic level, and the white karma does not rewrite your genetics, he should not have any distinguishing characteristics of an Otsutsuki like a horn or a dojutsu, right? So when you scale him to an Ishiki, you have to do it through the power and knowledge, not necessarily the skill or hack-based abilities that derive from rewritten genetics. And for me with this, just in summary, like Occam's razor, right? Like the simplest explanation is most likely the one we go with, right?
Yep.
So I don't feel the need to like parse it out too much, right? Because it's a one-to-one kind of logic type thing there. But no, that's just my take on it. I think he's more Ishii in terms of power, not even factoring in his new eye, right? This dojutsu that could be potentially something. Obviously, this is the Naruto Boruto verse. And then, of course, like NC was saying, you know, a tailed beast is going to be inferior to a Jinchuriki who has all of their abilities plus tailed beast. So we can say Code is superior to Jigen the monk, right? Not Jigen the monk influenced by Ishiki. So therefore, he'd be plus Ishiki clearly. But yeah, that's just my take on it.
I like this. That was very death battle in your scaling there. Is that why Bara opened up calling you the scaler out here?
Yep.
I like that. No, it's good.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I think just shonen rules. You know, you never like, when was the last time like we're like, oh, this one antagonist is weaker than the last one we fought. You know, it's just as time goes on and shonen anime lose their minds 300 episodes in, eventually, you know, remember when the show was about ninjas and not like space mechs fighting gods? So as time goes on, definitely things get stronger, and I like that explanation.
Yeah, Mello always does a deep dive. That's yep.
Yeah, my only thing to that, and again, no one really knows, but my only thing to that, Nancy, you kind of brought up a little bit earlier. Ishiki Otsutsuki was more of a villain for Naruto and Sasuke, and specifically Barrymore Naruto. Hypothetically, if Barrymore Naruto was still here, then I'd expect for this unlimited code to be stronger or up there with Ishiki Otsutsuki. But because it's not him, I'm not completely there yet. But I definitely did have another question. Again, another question I pressed everybody else with. I gotta press you with this. 2v1, who wins, Code or Kawaki and Boruto with their new powers, of course?
I mean, so I guess the problem is really where the problem doesn't lie with Boruto. The problem to me lies with Kawaki. Just because, and we talked about this last time I was on the podcast, of how inconsistent the scaling on Kawaki seems to be. So, you know, we've seen Kawaki block faster than light beams, right? So, I mean, are we scaling him at FTL, or are we scaling him as a dude who got hit by a couple of kunai? So like, then obviously now we're talking much later. We're talking 50 episodes later. We're talking, you know,
it's kunai level, bro. Kunai level.
Exactly. So the problem to me doesn't arise with Boruto, because I feel like with Boruto we have a very concrete. We have a couple of feats that are very concrete and very consistent. So if you're getting to me what is peak Kawaki, you know, faster than light, you know, regeneration, the ability to absorb ninjutsu, the blasts, all of that, and full unprecedented karma usage, especially with an 80% Otsutsuki body, I feel like I have to scale them above Code. But whether or not Code in the next couple of chapters here is going to see an upgrade that puts him above what those two can accomplish, I feel like we're going to.
When it comes to them, I'm sorry. You wanna go?
No, go ahead, Rocco.
So when it comes to them individually, Kawaki and Boruto, for me, you take a look at like when was the last time? So we know Kawaki and Boruto specifically as vessels, they draw power depending on how much of the karma has extracted up into that point. So we do know Boruto is 82% ish, and Kawaki was 80% ish, right? So Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body, and at most he can be 82% plus Boruto's chakra, because Boruto still had that. So he's around 82, 83-ish, right? So when you look at the manga, he's relative to Code, or rather Kawaki, right? Like Kawaki didn't have some great advantage, even though he's progressively getting stronger as he learned more about his abilities. So they were relative to each other. So you can kind of say like, you know, they're around 80-ish%, right? So then you would backtrack to like a someone like Sage of Six Paths Naruto, who's going up against Fused Momoshiki. Now there is a debate, right? Like, is the power that Boruto's relying on, Fused Momo, reverted back into base form, or is it just base form Momoshiki and he doesn't maintain or rather retain any of the power from Kinshiki? I think it's Fused Momo reverted back into base form, which to me tells me that he'll probably transform at some point in the future. But that's just my headcanon, my theory.
So wait, can I ask you a question on that? So
Absolutely.
Essentially you're saying that what lives within Boruto isn't a Fused Momoshiki, it's just Momoshiki.
I personally think it is Fused Momo reverted back into base form, and at some point in the future he'll probably transform back into that that visual that we saw as Fused
With
Momo.
the gold Rinnegan and all that, yeah.
Right, because Fused Momo's horns got destroyed from that clash with Boruto, and then you look at Momoshiki post-death, he has destroyed horns. So what affected Fused Momo goes on to then inform us as to why post-death Momoshiki has damage as it pertains to his horns. So that to me is like almost definitive that it is him. The
Mm-hmm.
fused version just reverted back.
See that thing. But what's interesting about that though is what we know based off Otsutsuki structure, right? Is that the lower ranking Otsutsuki, the one who's going to be fed to the 10 tails to make the god tree, will usually have a karma marking out there, correct? So if Kinshiki, let's say now his chakra has dissipated from Momoshiki, or even is still in there, but like Kinshiki's physical body is actually dead, is there somebody out there who's gonna become Kinshiki?
So to me, this would be like inductive reasoning, right? Like you have like a definitive statement, but like the evidence is circumstantial.
Of course.
So I wouldn't rely on that primarily. Now, in terms of like a theory, love it. Might make a video about it actually. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
But in terms of like analysis, I wouldn't go with that first and foremost. I would just kind of look at what we have to work with in the established lore first.
I mean, I've said the same thing about Kaguya, because Kaguya, you know, obviously was the lower ranking Otsutsuki. With Ishiki,